episode and in this segment, we're going to be talking about family businesses in Asia. And we're going to be talking with an expert who does work with family businesses to help them make some transitions, make some breakthroughs. The reason why I decided to do this is because the guest that I'm going to bring in a couple of minutes, he and I had an interesting conversation, and I felt like there's some good stuff that he can bring to the audience. So if you're a business owner, a CEO running a business in Asia, this is something to listen to and learn from. We'll also talk about, the financial situation that we see right now in Thailand and in Asia, with the idea that if we have a recession coming, family businesses, as well as every business, needs to prepare themselves for the upcoming storm. The challenge is, if we have a recession, you've got to be prepared. How are you prepared? Ultimately, cash is king. Having cash on your balance sheet gives you flexibility to survive a downturn. But maybe we won't have a downturn. As an analyst all my career and all my life, I know that you can't always predict it right. Maybe we won't have a downturn, but if we do, I'll tell you, it would be great to be prepared. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest today. And here he is, Mr. Theeraphap, and I'm going to call him Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
Nickname. So welcome to the show. And maybe you can just talk to us about, what do you cop? You can talk to us about, what do you do? Tell us about your career and, your services that you provide so that we can learn from you.
Right. Yeah. So first of all, welcome everyone from Thailand or all over the world. I'm Tim, by the way. My job here is I'm a family business consultant. I provide a consultancy to a lot of family firms in Thailand, SMBs, middle class family firms, and to family business in Thai stock market. Most of my statement of my working is to provide a solution that drives family business transformation, which could be professionalization, succession, or could be wealth foundations. So these three things are kind of like key issues of um, doing the family business in Thailand. Yeah, ev- e- everything is important and it combines to family business.
So maybe you could start off just by giving us an idea of a family that you've helped. Like, what's a common thing that you've seen, from the families that you've worked with?
Mhm. I think the common thing that family business face is a lot of misunderstanding in the generations. The older generation might think that cash is king. A lot of cash in their pocket might be good enough for sustaining the wealth in family and business. But the younger generation wants to have a lot of financial tools. Uh, they want to know a lot of debt, equity, return on asset, return on investment. They try to implement more about the financial instrument into their family business, which kind of making these two mindsets have conflicts among the ownership and management status. Yeah, this is the main things that I found out.
And how do you resolve that? Because on one side,
Yeah,
obviously, let's say the father or the mother, or the mother and father who have run the business, they may
hmm,
not be ready to let go of it, and they think they know
sure,
what's
sure.
right. And the younger generation wants to grab a hold and say, we want to take it in a different direction,
Yeah,
which may or
yeah,
may not turn out to be successful. I mean, there's so many unknowns in the world of business. How do you
sure.
handle situations like that?
Um, First of all, that there are things that family business have to understand that the succession of family business have two dimensions. First is the ownership status, right? The ownership has to stay in family.
Mm.
in their bloodline, in their like cousins, or um, among the definition that each family says. But the another dimension of succession is management succession, which is operations thing, doing all financial stuff. And I think that for the senior generations, what you can do that you can give management to younger generation and let the senior go to ownership, like holding share, becoming a president director, and let the younger generation do like the operation work, like being a CEO, head of sales, marketing, finance. Yeah, so you have to put the structure and help family business too. Yeah, like
And
structure is important.
I can understand that when, let's say the child, let's say you have a few children,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them, is really switched on, and then you
Mm-hmm.
get them running the business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty simple transition. But
Mm-hmm.
where it gets harder is where the younger generation, maybe they just came back from their MBA in the US or in the UK
Mm-hmm.
or wherever in China, and they're full of ideas,
Yeah.
but the older
Yeah.
generation's not exactly sure whether they want to let them go with it. And how do you handle that when you talk with families?
Um, Trial and test. That's the word. Like if they don't try, and if the older generation don't let them trial, um, and they have to evaluate every steps of their success and fail case. You can start with something small, like a small project that costs only just 100,000 baht or a million baht. But if you don't start with that point, if you don't start small, they are going to fail like
Mm,
big stuff, like 100 million that could cause a bankruptcy in family business. So if you ask me about how could you start with that small succession, so I would answer that start small
mm,
and trial and fail something fast and trying to recover. One thing that is I think is very important is the family capital. The family capital that I think is important is the intention for the senior level to teach a younger generation with no bias and stuff, which cannot apply for the senior level to train a professional. Is completely different. Like
mm,
you are teaching your son and you're teaching one of someone's sons. If you are teaching your sons, you can teach every detail, every insight, every secret of the family business. So yeah, start small, fail fast, and trial and test. Yeah.
mm. Another thing, I mean, I remember a friend of mine, her
Yeah.
father basically gave her the family business and said, "Go for it." And it had been around for a
She's
long
very
time.
lucky. She's
Yeah,
very lucky.
she's well, in this case, it turns out that it was in a tough industry and things were
Mhm,
declining,
mhm,
and
mhm,
it turned out to be beyond her capability. And
mhm,
what I'm thinking about, and it was a real challenge for her. Uh,
mhm,
it seems like when you look back over the last, let's say, 50 years, and the older generation that's handing over the business, it seems like business was kind of easy back then. There weren't a
mhm.
huge number of competitors. There weren't
Yeah.
international competitors. There wasn't low cost China. Now, and for the older generations, they're like, they generated a lot of wealth,
Mhm,
and it wasn't that difficult. I mean, we don't want to belittle the work that they did, which was huge, obviously, but the competitive forces are so much different. What's the possibility that the business, could it be that that business as it is can't really
mhm.
survive in a market where, let's say, China is trying to cut down the cost, they're cutting the costs massively below where the Thai family business is producing at?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. I think that I come up with two words. The first word is diversify. and the second word is decentralized. So family business have to know when to let something go, which is the toughest thing to do in family business. If you talk about the S curve, right? You have like starting stage, increasing, growing stuff like skyrocket, and the diminishing like going mature and then fall.
Mm.
One of the best timing for you to diversify or change your business model is at your maturity stage. And a lot of family business tend not to do that, by the way, because they think that this type of business model is their wealth, is the cash cow. But what got you here won't take you there, right? So you have to change your business model. You have to shift your way of work, your mindset, and if you are not capable of doing things, changing your business, you have to find someone else, find professional or someone you can trust inside your family or outside your family to do that for you.
Mm.
Yeah,
You know, families talk about legacy, and
sure.
there's a lot of meaning to the word legacy. But my great grandfather started a family business basically in 1898, and it was an architectural firm, and he ran it, and then he handed it over to his sons who ran it. And my father just didn't. He wasn't interested in architecture. He was interested in chemistry and all that, and so he didn't work in the business. And eventually my grandfather sold the business after,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, about close to 90 years of operation, and that business is still in operation in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's
Mm-hmm.
not in our family anymore. We don't have any ownership in it, but there still is a legacy. I mean, I've got a great booklet about the history of that, and that company produced, and still I can watch what's that company, that architectural firm's producing, and have a feeling of a little bit of a legacy. And it was, of
Yeah,
course, the legacy of the wealth that was created that
yeah,
allowed my father to study his PhD, and him to support me as I went through school and all of that. So, maybe we need to think about legacy also in there's a broader sense of legacy. Another example is Toyota, where they've had 12 CEOs since the founding of Toyota, and 7 of them were in the family, and
yeah.
the remainder were not. And so there's also that issue of, does legacy mean that the children must be the people who run the business, or that type of thing? So those are some things. I'm just curious what your experience is, what your
Uh-huh.
thoughts are.
Well, I think that the family legacy come into the subsection of family governance, like having a whole ecosystem of family business. One thing that you have to take concern is your family legacy. If you take Ford into this example, Ford have just only like one or two um, family member inside Ford company, and the rest of Ford member will work outside, like they're doing their own for their own interest. So that governance in family, they have agreed in consensus that Ford company didn't have to be run or managed by Ford family.
Mm,
If you take like for example, Thai company, you have Kun Jaran, starting from beer company, alcohol and drinks. Then he expand to something else. He expand to real estate, retail, commercials, and every kind of business in Thailand. And what he has in his covenant is his sons and daughter will be an heir to that sub company.
mm,
So I think that the legacy of family business is not about uh, whether or not family member have to be run inside the first family business, but how they agree and to pass on their shares, their history inside their families.
I just included a link in this show of the architectural firm that I was talking about, and in it, that link is a discussion of my great grandfather and the founding of the business, now 130 years, and that there's a legacy there. It's not a legacy anymore of ownership, but it's just interesting to have a broad conversation about legacy, and so. We've got a question from Alex. He says, do you think family businesses are at an advantage or disadvantage to professional businesses?
I think in this time, bringing professional into your family business is quite a advantage for family to expand their business capabilities. Because like as you tell me that today's business have very high competitive aspects. So you have to bring someone who is capable to compete with the market. And if a lot of families that want to stick with family management inside the family firms, but somehow I disagree that every C-level of family business have to be a family. Bringing a professional inside your executive meetings will start your professional meeting more, talking about number more, and reduce the emotional attached. The relationship about family will be decreased. Yeah.
Another interesting situation that happened in Thailand with one of the classic family businesses is Bangkok Bank.
Yeah.
And there was a man that was the CEO and president of Bangkok Bank, Kun Wichit, who was basically it came time that the son, Kun Chatsuri, was going to take over. And eventually he had to leave because there wasn't it was time for the son to take over. He went and became president at Siam Commercial Bank, as an example, and then did his thing there. But that's an interesting thing about bringing in outsiders. Sometimes it's not always easy. Alex also said, can a family business switch to be run by a hired professional executive? How do you do it, and should the family still be involved?
Yeah. I think the first intent that family business have to ask each other that what is the future of your family business? Did you want to grow more, or would you want to be controlled? Do you want to have control inside your family, or you want to liquidate? If you want to grow and you want control inside your family business, then hire a professional inside your family business might not be a good solution for you. But if you want to grow, and you want to grow fast, you want to go strong in this highly competitive era, I think bringing professional inside your family business might be very advantage. But then if you want to liquidate, or if you want to plan your if you want to sell your company, for instance, going to stock market, waiting for one year or two, and then reduce your share. That is one type and one strategy of liquidating your family business. And then bringing professional inside your company, finding a joint venture company, that could be a solution. So I think that the first intent that every family have to ask is what is your future? What do you see inside your family business? Yeah, and I like to point out one point that I think is important, that family business is not about a first business that your senior generation build. It's not about that retail business or the architecture business, but family business is more like a family member, and how they could do, and how could they own that group of the company. So bringing professional to be a C-level, that could be one tool of growing your family business larger. Yeah.
And what about cases where maybe you've seen where there's feuds within a family? And there's, the uncle doesn't get along with the
Mhm.
whatever, and that there's a feud going on, and it's
Yeah.
holding the family back from getting to where they need to go. How do you
It,
handle that? What's been your
it's
experience in those types of
yeah.
situations?
It's all about money and power, I think. And one thing that I recommend is to split the company, but not like separate of the family, but to split the operation inside the company. One case that I uh, pop ups in my mind is a manufacturing company. They produce and they have their own product and sell in Thai market.
Hmm.
Uh, Father and a cousin, which relatively are at the same age, they are very competitive among each others, and they don't get along very much. So what I suggest for them is to have a father side split company into manufacturing company, and the cousin side they will have the trading and product and R&D company. So they can split the operation and run by their own demand they want. The the conflict can resolve by splitting the company and making sure that every company is a part of a family structure.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that, you remind me of an old boss I had many years ago, and
Mhm.
the way he handled when salespeople got into fights, which they always
Yeah.
did. They always,
Mhm.
problem with each other. He would just put up a wall, and he put those salespeople behind that wall and those salespeople over there. No problem, problem solved. And then he would
Mhm.
then, if he'd had another fight, he'd just say, "Okay, set up another office and split
Mhm.
those people up." And then he
Mhm.
managed to expand his sales force and keep them
Yeah.
all there, but he never actually resolved any of the conflicts. And
Mhm.
I guess the question is, and in Thailand, we know it, particularly in maybe in Asia also,
Mhm.
conflict is not rewarded. It's not
Right.
socially acceptable to kind of have it out and work it out. And
Yeah.
so in this case, what he was doing was avoiding the conflict and seeing how
Mhm.
we could just survive and let the conflict just be there. In
Mhm.
some ways, you're doing the same thing by saying, well, just split and do your own thing. We're not going to try to make this
Oh,
one
yeah.
bigger company. How do you look at
Okay.
that?
I must give some part of this
Mm,
solution. So before they split the company, I have to ask first that what do you see your future inside your family business?
mm,
One thing that they have in common is they want to see family business grow. But growing is doesn't mean that they have to be stick together, right? Like growing and stick together is like one part of the thing. So uh, things that I've done is I drafted the family constitution that um, every company will have a share of to senior generation, but the share structure, the portion of share structure are different. So from the manufacturing company, a big brother will have larger share. He will have more power in terms of the decision making. But about the trading company, the younger brother will have more power deciding what to do inside his business. And they come into consensus that this stuff is okay,
mm,
but before that, I must enforce the mindset of constructive conflicts. So it's okay to have a small conflict or big conflict inside your company. That's fine. But one of the point that you have to do is you have to bring up everything under your carpet up and talk about that, because family business in Thai Chinese culture, they don't want to talk about shares, don't want to talk about cash properties, uh, every mismatching stuff that they have done before, like a decade ago. But I like to enforce this mindset of doing a constructive conflict. So everything under your carpet must be put up and resolved. So at the time that they decide to split the company, they know that okay, this percentage of share will be like this, and they
Right.
have a well structure. They have a family holding that they hold equal share together and come down and hold the operating companies. Yeah. So first thing is to do a family constitution, enforce the mindset of constructive conflicts, and then finding a direction of working inside the family groups.
Mm. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So that's interesting because what you're doing is you're keeping let's say you're setting up a dominant shareholder for a
Yeah.
particular company so that
Mhm.
that family member can just go do it,
Yes.
make
Yeah.
make make the decisions you want to make.
Make the decision, and they will be a what is called a boss in that company.
Yep. And then,
And
but
yeah, yeah,
because it's not a complete separation, there's still share ownership by the remaining family members,
yeah.
then the other family members benefit from letting that person free to go do their thing.
Hmm.
It also does a couple of things. It prevents the feud in the family from going in to try to conceal assets and get a hold of different assets and land and things that are related to different parts of the business.
Yeah.
Instead, everybody's going to have some portion of share in that, which is,
Mhm.
uh, and then also because that dominant shareholder is going to be a subordinate shareholder in another business, they're not going to kill each other also.
Right.
So to try to, compete in a way that would hurt because ultimately they're hurting their shareholding.
And I'm forcing everyone to work, by the
Mm,
way, because if they stay in one company, and at the end, if they are having conflict e- every day, one of the family member will start to be lazy. So like, okay, all right, if I don't have this, I'm just not going to do my job.
yeah.
So what I've done is I split the company, but building this family and business structure and enforcing that everyone have to take their role inside the family business, building the ultimate wealth for family and business.
Mm.
Yeah.
And at what size of a family business does it make sense to set up the corporate structures, the trust
Mhm.
structures, or those types of things? Like
Yeah.
at what point does it not make sense? At what point does it make sense?
Well, I think money is not an issue, by the way, but the indication that I think that is about whether or not do you want to grow your business or not, or whether or not you want to keep your family history to you or not. Because I have one of my clients which size is about 200 or 300 million baht,
Mm,
and they are setting family holding. They are splitting the company because they think that this starting company, the starting from older generation, have to be owned and run by family members. But
mm,
there are other company that a bigger brother think that it can be joined with someone else. So when they have this kind of future, and they are building the direction of creating their own wealth and building the family wealth. So at that part, they are building their own the structure. So
mm,
I think that the point of when you have to starting to think about the structure is when you want to have a future in your family business, more than what size of your money that you have to build your structure. But if it's a trust, that's a different story, because trust in Thailand cannot be formed right now, but REIT can. Uh, if it's a REIT, then you have to have large amount of real estate and combine it together to a fund manager and run it by them. So if you have a lot of wealth and a lot of potential, you can speak to FA, you can speak to a law firm, and then start your REIT fund and run by someone else, which is the professional of that.
And that's, an example of there's many families that are asset rich and cash poor,
Yeah.
meaning they have a huge amount of land, either where their business is sitting or land that they've accumulated around the country, as an example. But that land has, very little cash yield coming from it. And also you got different family members trying to, maybe get a hold of that or figuring out a way to get it. So if you can get, it's big enough, let's say that it makes sense to do it, getting that into a REIT and then having the operating companies pay for the use of that land, basically it shifts the value into an instrument that pays a yield. It also provides, an opportunity. So if family members have these assets that they'd like to not get rid of, but get some liquidity from it, then selling it to the REIT could make
Yeah.
sense.
I think that I think holding the land is the mindset of the older generation, because as I speak to a lot of seniors, they think that if you hold the land, the more you hold the land, it reflects your wealthiness, that you own a lot of land, you are a landlord. But the younger generation, that their mindset is more like a investors and entrepreneurs. Like they have to balance the asset and cash in order to grow, in order to to join with someone else. So I think that is a conflict that it must be talked about and resolved in each of the family.
In my profit boot camp, what I do is I get the family members to sign what I call a profit manifesto, which basically aligns them with one goal for the next 12 months, which is to double the profits of the business. It's simple. It's not as complex as a constitution. It's very simple. And I'm just curious, explain to us what is a constitution, and what's the value of going through that process?
Sorry, what?
What
The
is
signal
what
is
is the what is the
quite a lot. Sorry.
What is the
Yeah.
constitution? You talked about a family
Oh
constitution.
yeah. Sorry. The
Yep.
family constitution is a set of rules and a principle of how you can manage your family and business. So in family business, if you don't have rules, if you don't have family constitution, or some family like to call family charters, you don't have rules of contribution and compensation. That's a huge part of doing the constitution. Whether or not your cousins, your siblings, your wife can work inside your family business or not, your share portions, and how would you do a succession planning? Is professional is able to run inside your company or not? There are like a lot of elements that you can talk about the family constitution, but in principle, it talks about how would you manage and run your family business in a family consensus mindset.
And
Yeah.
when a family hires you to work on that, how long does it take and what does it entail?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer, but the fastest family that I construct a family constitution took around, I would say 6 to 8 months. Yeah, but the longest is approximately around like I think like year and a half or two, assumably, because there are a lot of dimension that have to talk, and sometimes people are using me as a speaking to someone else, which is not correct in terms of the principle. So I think that as a family business consult, one one thing that you have to do is you are not going to be biased by any means.
Mm,
You have to balance the business profitability and family relationship. You have to like enhance the constructive conflict, which is not very common in Thai society. Um, yeah, and all of that. Like it took me a lot of time and energy to construct this family constitution. Yeah.
mm, mm. So in wrapping up, maybe could you give a little bit of advice, maybe one or two things from what you've seen with family
Mhm.
businesses? If there's a family business owner and they're struggling with just the common things that family businesses are going through, what would be some of your advice?
Yeah, like my first advice would look, well, I have three advice, by the way. Like
Mm,
first advice is if you start with your future or your next steps, find someone to help.
mm,
Where turn out if is your it might be your family, your advisor, or you could hire a consultant to co-design the future with you. And the second is um, having a professional work alongside you is not a bad idea at all, because having a professional and outside mindset, they will bring a new dimension, a new capabilities to grow to you to grow your business. And if you do your business, you must not forget about family system. A lot of family members that I talk, they want to liquidate out or get rid out of the family mindset. But family business are consist of like 75 to 80% involved population business. So and it contributes more than 80% of the world GDP. So you are in a majority of a world driving force. So don't delete that away for me. Yeah.
thank
But yeah, but by the way, I think I have a question for you,
Yep.
Andrew. Like, what is your view in the family business?
Um,
Like your whole like your big picture about family business.
I think that we should be celebrating family businesses, particularly the family businesses in Asia. In the West, it's kind of looked down on a little bit, the family business,
Mhm.
and they want to, list in the stock market or also, become completely professional and all that.
Mhm.
But one of the
Mhm.
things that, we can say about Thailand and about Asia is you really only have family businesses or government owned businesses.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot in between. And so I think we should first of all celebrate those family businesses. The second thing is that the ultimate challenge for a family business is to move from running it as a family in maybe a different style, and trying to figure out how to get the most out of it. And I think that one of the lessons that I've learned too is just the idea that it doesn't matter who runs the business. What matters is who owns the business. So
Yeah.
don't get too caught up. If your son or daughter doesn't want to do it, or if maybe they're just not that good at it, maybe it's better to have someone else run it, even if that's for 3 to 5 years, and move from that. So I think that's another thing. I think the other thing is that many family businesses are a mess when you look at the financials, and they want to list in the stock market and all that. But when you look at all the different stuff, and when you own a family business and you have control of it, you can do anything you want.
Right.
If you want to make a loan to a family member, if you want to have a piece of land be used by a family member or whatever, but once you become professional, you've got to clean those things up. And I
Yeah,
think
you
that's a
cannot do
huge
that
challenge.
anymore. Mm, yeah, yeah. Like it's the point that I just talked about. Like if you want to do a succession, you have to think about a ownership succession and management succession. The ownership succession will be with you at the end of your family growth.
Mm,
But the management succession you can delegate to a professional, to someone else that is not by family.
yeah.
So I think that is the point that family business have to understand that you can be your business can be run by someone else, but the ownership will be with you at the end of your family.
Mm,
You can do that with a knowledge of a structure, a financial tools, and your family that talks together a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that the communication is an important part, that, you got to
exactly.
talk about these things. I just taught a class at Sasin over the weekend
Mm-hmm.
about valuation. So we had some family businesses and some other startups that were in there that were doing very well. And one guy was particularly impressive because he's got a fast growing business. And what he's done is he has hired internal auditor, and he's hired
Mm-hmm.
a top level auditing firm to audit his books, and he's closing the books on a monthly basis. He's closing, he's getting a quarterly audit just as if he was in the stock market. And I think it's just a great way of, of preparing yourself. So I would say, don't underestimate how much time it takes to
Mm-hmm.
fix up the accounting and finance. That takes
Yeah,
time.
because like most of the family business, which is my clients, they have double account
Yep.
all the time,
Yeah.
and it gave me a lot of headache because a lot of company expense are combined with family expense.
Mm.
Like you have like bills that come from nowhere from your company, but it's there,
Mm.
which I have no idea about. But if you want to be professional and you want to draw professional inside your company and you want to grow professionally, um, doing things like that won't won't be a good solution. You have to act professional first. You have
Mm.
to transform yourself to be a professional family business company, which you can do that, and you have a lot of case studies from the stock market.
Yeah.
um, I sure that you might know some of them, and become a professional pharmacist is a challenging job. It's not a impossible job, but it can be done. But
Mm.
first of all, you have to talk with your family first about what is your future, what do you see, what is the potential of your family business in your view, and then trying to adjust, trying to transform your business, doing a structure, building trust, and ultimately growing wealth in family and growing wealth in the business is very important.
Great. Well, we're going to wrap it up there, but it's great to talk to you and, get to know a little bit more about what you're doing, the way you think about things. I think,
Mhm.
your discussion about the Constitution, the family Constitution is an important one.
Mhm.
And to resolve the different issues that are out there, that it's okay to have conflict, and let's resolve those conflicts. So I think that's valuable. Is there any last word that you'd like to share with the audience?
Speak to your family more.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my last statement. Uh, yeah, because if families start to speak and talk and communicate together with each other more, every conflict, every misunderstanding and misleading um, mindset, most of them will be gone
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Yeah.
Great advice. Great advice. All right. I want to thank you for the discussion, and you and I'll talk for just a second after this, but thanks for your time.
You too. You
Yep.
too.
Well, what a great discussion that was with Tim about what he's experienced, in particular, his discussion of the family constitution. He talked about things like separating businesses sometimes if you just have really strong personalities that aren't getting along, but that doesn't mean take the total ownership away, but give a dominant position to different parts of the business, to those people within the business that want to run those parts, but keep a shareholding of the rest of the family members. So I think that was one of the many different things that I took away from it. So I just want to thank everybody for joining today for Asian Family Business. That was a great discussion, and I'll see you next time.